They said the mayor's son dragged my daughter by her hair down Main Street, and no one stopped him. Cameras rolled. People watched. But the police cars that came were there. For me, not for him. They called me retired, said my hands were better off clean. They didn't know the dirt I once crawled through in uniform. Hit like, subscribe for more betrayal stories, and comment your city or country. I never thought the battlefield would follow me home. I'd spent years leading SEAL operations where silence meant survival. But nothing prepared me for the sound of my daughter's screams echoing through my own town. That morning felt ordinary. Coffee on the porch, my teenage daughter Ruby walking to the bus stop. Then my phone buzzed with a neighbor's shaky video. I pressed play. My blood froze. There she was, Ruby, crying, arms flailing, while Kyle Aldrin, the mayor's only son, had his fist tangled in her hair, dragging her across the asphalt like some captured trophy. His friends laughed. No one interfered. You could hear my daughter begging him to let go. You could hear her saying, "Please, Kyle, you're hurting me." By the time I reached the street, it was over. Police were already there, pretending nothing happened. One of them looked down at my retired military plates and muttered, "Sir, stand back. It's political." Political. That one word felt like someone pressed a knife behind my ribs. The mayor arrived minutes later, his fancy coat blowing in the wind, fake concern plastered on his face. "Commander," he said smoothly, "teens fight. Let's not make a scene." His eyes didn't blink once. Ruby hid behind me, holding her torn backpack. Her lip was bleeding. My voice came out low. "Your son assaulted my daughter in broad daylight. There's no politics in that." He leaned closer. "You're a civilian now. Powerless." Then he smiled, a smile I'll never forget. People here respect position, not history. That night the local news flashed the story for less than 20 seconds. They called it a minor incident between two students. Ruby's name vanished by morning. So did the footage. I realized the mayor didn't just own the police, he owned the air itself. When a system eats truth alive, you either starve or fight. I went into the basement that hadn't been opened since I left active service. Dust covered the storage trunk, the one labeled Echo Phantom 72. I hesitated for a second before cutting the old lock. Inside lay fragments of another life. My tactical vest, my encrypted radio, a folded flag, and the patch every man in my unit had bled for. Horizon 72. Each item whispered names, faces, and ghosts. Ruby came down quietly, eyes swollen. "Are you doing something bad, Dad?" she asked. I forced a smile. "No, honey. Just remembering who I used to be." She touched my wrist. "Don't hurt anyone because of me." I wanted to promise her that. But promises mean little when justice is already dead. That night I sat alone under the porch light. The air was cold, but my mind burned. Every combat rule I ever followed returned. Observe, assess, plan, execute. Revenge wasn't the mission, balance was. I took out the encrypted satellite phone, the one that never officially existed. My thumb hovered over the single contact saved under the codename Frost. I hadn't heard that voice in 12 years. Before pressing call, I whispered to the darkness. He said I'm powerless. The line connected after 3 tones. A rough laugh came through. "Commander Ian Rowe. I told the guys someday you'd break that promise and call." I exhaled. "Frost, I need the team." Silence stretched, then the sound of a lighter flicking. "You sure? Last time we rolled out under that name, we buried 3. "I'm sure. It's personal." "You rebuilding Horizon 7 too?" he asked quietly. "It was never broken," I said. Outside, wind bent the trees, the world preparing for something it didn't yet see coming. I went back inside, kissed Ruby's forehead, and turned the photo of her late mother face down. I couldn't bear her eyes watching what I was becoming again. By dawn, I'd received 6 missed calls from unlisted numbers and 1 text that made my pulse stop. 72 ready for orders. The message had the coordinates of an abandoned airfield 2 miles outside town. The same place we'd once trained covertly before our last classified mission. I knew what it meant. Once they were back, there would be no half measures. As I loaded Ruby into the car for school, she looked out the window, silent. "Dad," she said softly, "will you make him sorry?" My hands tightened on the steering wheel. "No," I said. "I'll make him remember." Halfway to the airfield, I pulled over at the old diner off Route 6. Same leather benches, same burnt coffee smell. A man in a baseball cap sat in the corner. He looked older, beard thicker, eyes colder, but when he smiled, I saw the brother I used to fight beside. "Frost," I said. He stood and hugged me quietly. "You ready to wake the old ghosts?" "Not yet. I just need to look at them." He slid an envelope across the table. "You'll find the others coming in tonight. You say the word, Commander, and the horizon lights up again." Before I could answer, a news report flickered on the TV behind the counter. The mayor cutting a ribbon at a new youth center. Kyle beside him, grinning. The headline read, "Mayor's son honored for community support." Frost caught the reflection in my eyes and muttered, "Guess I don't need to ask who the target is." Outside the diner, rain started to fall, heavy and fast. Each drop hit the ground like a countdown. I looked toward the glowing skyline and whispered to myself, "You told me I was powerless. Let's see what powerless looks like when it's wearing a trident." As lightning flashed, the camera of life zoomed in on the cracked phone screen. One number flashing red. Team online. Horizon 7-2. The mission had just begun. The rain hadn't stopped for 2 days. Every drop hitting the hangar roof sounded like an old heartbeat I'd almost forgotten. By the time dawn smeared across the horizon, I saw the shadows of parked trucks and silhouettes stepping through fog. 72 men stood before me, my brothers. Not soldiers anymore, but husbands, fathers, worn souls carrying memories no one else could hold. They came because of one thing, loyalty. "Still can't believe you called us back," Hunter said, shoving his hands into a soaked jacket. "Last time we met, we said we'd only reunite in heaven." "Guess the world fell short," I replied. "We've got a mayor hiding crimes and a son who thinks he's untouchable. We'll remind them what accountability feels like." The men didn't cheer. SEALs don't cheer. They just nodded. Orders accepted. Inside the hangar, Victor unfolded an old satellite map over a crate. Target 1, the mayor's house. Target 2, his safe assets. Target 3, Kyle Aldrin. His pen tapped 3 red circles like thunder cracking. "We don't move till we understand their weakness." I walked closer. "The weakness is arrogance," I said. "That boy parades his power in daylight. People fear them because they've never seen anyone push back." Tristan leaned on a pillar, wiping rain off his rifle. "So, how far are we taking this, Commander?" I met his eyes. Far enough that they remember our names without ever hearing them. The next night, we split into silent teams across town. I rode with Hunter in a decoy electrical van, headlights off. The streets were quiet except for the whining hum of streetlights. We parked near the mayor's mansion hilltop. Hunter adjusted the thermal scope aimed at the gate. Security detail, 8 men. 2 patrol inside, 1 on roof. Military rhythm, not police. I nodded slowly. Private contractors. Former Vanguard men, probably retired mercs. Paid muscle. He lifted a brow. "We taught half these guys how to shoot. Could be a problem." "It's already one," I said. "Let's learn their pattern before we rearrange it." Midnight. Infiltration feeds came online one after another, digital veins glowing across our monitors. Victor patched the mayor's security grid into our server. Even now, his fingers moved like an artist's brush, calm, exact. He murmured, "Got access to 2 indoor cameras. Office C and hallway near north entrance. You're not gonna like what you see." I leaned over his shoulder as the screen flickered. Kyle Aldrin was in the living room, laughing with 2 city officials, bragging about how the commander's crying to reporters. One of them joked about hiring him a leash. Quentin muttered under his breath, permission to erase his grin permanently. I shook my head. "Not yet. We don't shoot noise into silence." We feed silence until it screams itself. Morning brought more rumors. Hospital staff talking about bribes. A police captain ordering his men to trash any complaint from my family. The system was already circling its wagons. I tried to keep Ruby away from the storm. She spent most afternoons sitting alone, drawing. Her therapist said the drawings were shadows trying to speak. I didn't tell her that sometimes shadows spoke louder than truth. That evening, I got a call from Frost. Only static for a few seconds. Then his voice came through. "Commander, we've got trouble. Felix Sloan got picked up near the waterfront. He's one of ours." My chest tightened. Picked up by who? Mayor's men. He was tailing a protection convoy and got recognized. They've got him in the old Atlantic plant. Looks heavy. I paced the hangar floor. Coordinates. Sending. Command, if they break him, they won't. I cut the line. Hunter was already gearing up before I spoke. Extraction? Yes. Quiet. 7 men, single entry, no casualties. We leave no sound behind. By the time we reached the docks, fog had rolled in thick as smoke. The building loomed like an oil-stained skeleton. We ghosted between containers. No radio chatter, only hand signals and breath. Through my scope, I saw Felix inside, tied to a chair, head down, one cheek swollen blue. 2 guards stood by, one scrolling his phone, the other pacing with a rifle slung loose. 2 fingers from me meant go. Tristan and Hunter vanished into darkness, reappearing seconds later behind the guards. 2 short, muffled sounds, neither louder than a cough. Both threats gone. I cut Felix loose. His eyes fluttered open. "Sir," they knew our call signs. "Someone's feeding them intel." That sentence drained the blood from my face. Betrayal inside our own circle. I pressed a steady hand to his shoulder. "Get up, soldier. You're going home." We started to move when alarms exploded overhead, motion sensors flickering red like fireworks. They tripped the silent grid. Victor's voice crackled through comms. "Move, dark exit." I ordered. Flashes tore through the mist, bullets shredding barrels behind us. We darted through rain, hearts sinking with thunder. At the edge of the pier, an emergency boat waited, our planned escape route. One by one, we dove in, the wake swallowing sound. On shore, I glanced back. Armed men swarmed the plant, shouting, "Find them. Mayor wants proof they exist." Hunter spat salt water, breathing hard. "They know we're real now." I nodded. "Good. Fear's the seed of truth." Sunrise painted the sky behind smoke from the docks. Inside our hangar, silence held heavier than metal. The mission had succeeded, but suspicion had entered the walls. Victor laid new photos on the table, thermal images of the mayor's mansion basement. "You were right, Commander. Level Sub-2 has restricted power lines. It's not a wine cellar at all. It's a data vault. Probably where he keeps everything that buys his silence." Hunter stared at me, jaw tight. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" "Yeah," I said softly. "We're going inside that house." He gave a half smile. "And this time," I said, locking eyes with him, "we make noise they can't bury." The room went still but alive, the storm before precision. Outside, wind pushed open the hangar door just enough for morning light to cut across our gear, lighting the faces of men who'd come back from history itself. Tomorrow, the hunt would turn personal. The plan was simple: get eyes inside the mayor's mansion, find evidence of his secrets, and leave before the system even knew we'd been there. Nothing about executing it was simple. That night we drove 3 utility trucks disguised with the town's electric company logo through the back gate. Hunter sat beside me, wearing a fake badge and the same calm expression he used before breaching safe houses overseas. "Funny," he murmured, "how we once took down foreign warlords. Now we're rewiring courthouses." "Different playground," I said. "Same rules." Inside the property, we worked like ghosts. Victor accessed the sub-basement control line using a portable drive, uploading an automatic data siphon. Tristan and Evan ran micro cameras into the hall vents above the office wing. No loud moves. No mistakes. I kept my eyes on the library corridor where the mayor usually held closed-door meetings. Surveillance feed showed him laughing with his son. Their conversation was short but telling. "You embarrassed me, Kyle," the mayor hissed. Kyle smirked. "Relax, Dad. The media story's dead. That ex-soldier can't touch us." "He better not," the mayor said, lowering his voice. "He's got ghosts in his corner, and I'm not paying to fight phantoms again." He knew. Somehow he knew. I signaled Victor to go dark immediately. No more transmission from the interior cameras. If they traced the feed, we were burned. By midnight, we were back on the road. Hunter drove, eyes forward. He suspected something. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Someone's feeding him fragments. We find the mole before we move again." Next morning, Ruby woke to headlines about the mayor donating $1 million to rebuild the youth shelter he shut down 2 months ago. Public sympathy flooding in again. She threw the paper onto the counter. "He's pretending to be a hero now?" "Image," I said. "He's scrubbing blood with charity." Her voice shook. "You're planning something, aren't you?" I didn't answer. She stared at me. "Don't make our house another battlefield." When she left for school, the silence that stayed behind was heavier than any weapon. The same silence we used to wait in before missions, the kind where choices became scars before you even made them. Later that week, the town's annual fair set up around Main Street Park. We decided to move under crowd cover. No one suspects repair crews during festivals. While fixing the light poles near City Hall, Victor picked up an encrypted wireless signal bursting from the mayor's mansion. "Sir," he whispered through comms, "whatever's running under there isn't power. It's data streaming. High capacity, locked behind military-grade encryption." "Copy," I said. "Pull fragments, but leave no trace." That same night, Victor decoded the first clear file. It wasn't money logs or documents. It was footage. Girls. Crying, pleading. One file labeled Town Final Edit. None older than Ruby. No one spoke for a long time. I felt my hand shake for the first time in years. Hunter broke the silence. "Now it's personal for all of us." I slammed the laptop closed. "We leak nothing until we have full proof. One random release, and he buries everything." Tristan nodded. "Then we dig deeper." 2 days later, Frost called in with bad news. Local authorities think someone breached the mayor's network. He's tightening his circle. "Expect patrol vehicles checking every abandoned property by morning." "Let them come," I said. "By the time they arrive, we'll be somewhere they can't look." We shifted base to an old farm near the hill ridge. Empty barns, wide sightlines, perfect for vanishing. The night was unusually quiet, sky burning with silver clouds. Hunter adjusted my shoulder gear. "You sure about next step?" We hit him directly. We risk everything. "The risk ends when his lies stop breathing," I said. "Tomorrow we take the real proof." Before dawn, Victor finalized the insertion plan. Layered security inside the mansion. First-level human patrol, second-level facial scan. Third-level sealed steel door code linked to the mayor's watch. Break any layer wrong, system wipes itself. He smiled faintly. "We've broken harder locks." "Don't underestimate arrogance," I reminded him. That man hides a kingdom beneath his smile. At 2 a.m., we moved. 2 trucks, for men each. Minimal word exchange. Our paths lit only by infrared pulses on helmets. Entry through drainage access under the garden wall. Smell of chemicals and cold metal. Perfect reminder of war. We reached the vault chamber. Victor unpacked his bypass kit, fingers steady. 40 seconds, he murmured. Tristan covered doorway, rifle low. I watched the sensor lights turn from red to green. Click. Door opened. Inside, rows of drives, sealed boxes labeled infrastructure projects, public safety records, and one alone on the top shelf, compromises. When I opened it, I knew the night had just changed everything. Photos of politicians, payment receipts, and evidence linking the mayor to corporate bribes and several disappearances. Enough to collapse his empire. Then I saw another file, time-stamped only 3 days ago. Inside was my photo, taken outside Ruby's school gate. Caption read, Rowe investigation priority. Daughter becomes leverage. My throat went dry. Hunter whispered, "What did you find?" I held up the printed image, voice low. They're watching her. That moment shattered every line between mission and fatherhood. Victor packed the data drives. We've got what we need. Let's go before sunrise. We left the mansion silently the same way we came. The city slept, unaware of the storm sitting beneath its own roof. By sunrise, we were back at the farm, evidence secured. Hunter poured black coffee that smelled like burned iron. We go public? Not yet, I said. We hit him where it hurts first. One by one. Tristan frowned. You planning to corner a politician before you kill his image? Exactly, I said. He built his throne out of fear. We'll break the legs before the world sees him fall. Victor glanced at my phone. Command, you seeing this? I turned it over. A new text from an unknown number glowed on screen. Nice break-in, Commander. Hope your girl makes it to class today. I looked from the phone to my man. He knows. He's making this personal. Hunter's voice dropped to a growl. Then we go personal too. Outside, daylight cut through the fog, falling across the American flag hanging from the barn wall. It fluttered once, then stilled, like it, too, was waiting. And I knew it. The games were over. Now it was war. The message on my phone kept flashing like a heartbeat. Hope your girl makes it to class today. I stared at it until the words burned into my eyes. No more waiting. The mission wasn't about exposure anymore. It was survival. That afternoon, Ruby never made it home. Her school called first, saying she'd left early with a family driver. We don't have a family driver. For 10 seconds, the room spun. Every instinct I'd buried since service came roaring back. I grabbed the comm unit. Hunter, Victor, Tristan, code Scarlet. They've got her. Silence for 2 heartbeats. Then Hunter's voice, steel flat, on it. We'll trace every camera feed within 3 miles. Victor's hands flew across his laptop, eyes glued to the screen. Sir, one sedan left the campus at 2:14 p.m., plates registered to a shell company tied to the mayor's office. Destination? Coordinates lead straight to the mansion's private access road. I didn't speak. I just holstered my sidearm. Hunter caught my arm. If you go storming in, you'll lose her before we find her. We planned first. I breathed once through my teeth. You've got 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, we moved. 3 SUVs, blacked out, silent calms. Every mile between us and the mansion felt heavier than the last. Victor's voice came through earpiece. Thermal shows 2 heat sources on sub-2 level, plus multiple guards upstairs. Ruby's one of them. Alive? I asked. Heartbeat steady. That was all I needed. We split entry points. Hunter from East Garden, Tristan from kitchen side. I took underground through drainage. It smelled like mold, metal, and old lies. My flashlight cut through darkness until steel walls appeared ahead. The data vault we'd broken into before had a section we hadn't noticed, a welded panel behind the racks. I tapped it. Hollow sound. I pried it open. Behind it was a narrow hallway leading to a small room. Bright light. Camera recording light red. And there she was, Ruby, hands tied, gagged, sitting in a chair in front of an active feed camera. A voice echoed from a speaker above, smooth, familiar. Commander Rowe, you should have stayed retired. I warned you family could be leverage. The mayor, his tone calm, confident. I answered the air. Let her go. He chuckled. Justice isn't on your side anymore. The law works for those who write it. I knew he was buying time. Probably had his men circling us already. I flicked my comm Hunter status. Contacts upstairs neutralized. You've got 5 minutes before the next patrol wave. Copy. I cut the camera feed cable. The room went dark. Ruby looked up, trembling. I untied her ties, pulled the gag away. Dad, she whispered, voice breaking. They said they'd hurt my friends if you didn't stop. My chest tightened. You're safe now. Keep close. We moved quickly through the hidden corridor into the storage hall. But halfway out, motion sensors blinked red. Alarms screamed through the vents. Hunter, back up now. 2 minutes. The hallway ahead filled with footsteps, armed guards flooding in. I shoved Ruby behind a crate. Stay down, no matter what. Hunter burst through the side door, silenced MP5 snapping at each corner. Precise, no wasted rounds. Tristan flanked from rear stairwell. 3 men dropped before even realizing who'd hit them. When the final shot ended, silence returned except Ruby's sobs. I knelt beside her, brushing hair from her face. You all right? She nodded. Dad, there's something else. I heard them. They said there are other girls down here. Locked in another wing. My pulse froze. Victor confirmed from comms. Infrared shows separate heat signatures east corridor. Multiple 5, maybe 6. I turned to Hunter. We don't leave without them. We breached the east corridor. Wooden doors, heavy locks. What we found stripped whatever emotion I had left. 6 girls inside separate rooms, frightened beyond words. Tristan's eyes misted. How long has this been happening under the mayor's house? Too long, I said. Hunter radioed Frost. Contact FBI liaison. We need extraction units and witness protection. Quiet. Frost's reply cut through static. Copy. 15 minutes out. Keep them safe. We gathered the girls in the main hall, wrapping blankets from storage around them. Ruby stayed close to me, silent but stronger now. Then Victor spoke from his laptop. Command, you need to hear this. Internal feed just picked up movement in the mayor's office. He's leaving, escorted by his son. Headed to private airstrip 20 minutes away. Perfect. He thought he could run. I looked at Hunter. He doesn't leave this county. Hunter's grin was grim. Roger that. We moved the rescued girls out through underground exit C, leading them to Frost's team vehicles waiting by the forest line. As the last then left, Ruby hugged me tight. Dad, you're not coming? Not yet. I have one last conversation. She shook her head, tears streaking her dirt-stained face. Please, just come with us. I will. Once honesty has a name again. Her fingers slipped from mine as the van doors closed. Watching that van disappear through fog felt like watching innocence leave the earth again, but this time, I promised myself it wouldn't end in silence. We turned back toward the vehicles. 50 yards away, the estate camera network blinked online again, auto backup. Everything we did, recorded. Exactly what we needed for evidence. Victor handed me a small hard drive. All the footage, vault, girls, everything. Once public, he's finished. Hunter sighed. And we disappear, I said. Ghosts don't testify. We climbed into the trucks, engines growling beneath the growing wind. As we pulled away, red emergency lights danced behind us across the mansion's shattered windows. For the first time that night, I allowed myself one thought. It was far from over. The mayor would retaliate. And when he did, I'd be ready not as Commander Rowe, but as a father who finally remembered who he was. In the distance, police sirens approached the estate, late as always. I watched their lights disappear in my mirror and whispered, "Bury me if you can, Mr. Mayor, but I won't go quietly." The night after the rescue, the air smelled like rust and rain. We'd freed the girls, but peace never follows a seal. I watched lightning bruise the sky through the barn window and waited for the next hit. It always comes. Victor sat across from me, tearing open an MRE pack, eyes glued to his screen. "Commander," he said quietly, "the mayor's media team's already spinning the story. They're claiming those girls were victims of human traffickers and the mayor funded their rescue. Our operation never existed publicly." My chest went tight. He turned reality inside out overnight. Hunter slammed a wrench against the workbench. That coward owns everything. The press, law, judges. We hand him evidence straight to heaven, hill by another angel. I looked up from the table. Then we stopped buying silence. Tristan leaned forward. "You planning to leak it?" "Not yet," I said. "We hit a harder target first, his son. If Kyle breaks, the mayor crumbles with him. At dawn, the county patrol found 6 guards unconscious on the estate floor. They blamed drug theft gone wrong. Not a single headline mentioned the girls who vanished for safety under FBI custody. But the message had spread. Horizon 7-2 was real. By afternoon, dark SUVs started prowling near the farm. Hunter spotted the first one through his scope. Tinted windows, slow movement, same route twice. "We've been burned," he said. Victor switched off all signal devices. Either they tracked the drives, or someone's leaking again. I met his eyes. Felix was the only one they caught alive. He said they knew our call signs before he broke. Someone fed them from inside. The room stiffened. No one looked at each other. Betrayal inside a SEAL unit cuts deeper than a bullet. Tristan whispered, "Say it clear, sir. You think one of us sold out?" "I think someone's desperate enough to protect his family," I said. "And we find him before the mayor finds us." Night fell. We set up motion sensors outside the barn and took shifts. Around midnight, an alert buzzed, soft vibration, south approach. Hunter and I crept through the wet grass, rifles low. Faint footsteps. 2 figures. Civilians? No, flashlights short pulsing in code. SEAL code. Ours. Hunter crouched. That's Victor's pattern. We froze as the beams flicked again. This time, wrong sequence. 2 fast, 1 short. Signal for compromised. Then a crack split the darkness. Gunfire. Hunter shouted, "Down!" Bullets sliced through the barn wall, splinters flying. We rolled behind the truck wheels, returning bursts. Shadows moved fast along the tree line. 6, full tactical gear. I hissed into comms. "Tristan, window flank." No reply. Just more gunfire. Victor burst out from the side door. They jammed comms. "EMP pulses, old Navy tech. Who taught them that?" Hunter barked. "Us," I said quietly. It lasted less than 5 minutes. Quick entry, precision fire. They didn't want bodies. They wanted the drives. When the last shot stopped, the intruders were gone. Left behind only tire prints and brass casings engraved Vanguard Group. Hunter cursed under his breath. Corporate mercenaries. The mayor hired professionals. I looked around. "Where's Tristan?" We found him half-conscious behind the truck, shoulder bleeding. His voice broke. I warned them we'd retaliate. Tried to scare him off. They tracked the signal through me. Hunter snapped. "What did you do?" "I used my old army login to intercept their funds. They traced it back." Victor's hands shook. "So they followed you here, Tristan." He lowered his head, shame pouring from every breath. "I thought I could help. I'm sorry." I stared at him a long time. Years of trust, brotherhood, reduced to a mistake born from desperation. "Patch him up," I said quietly. "We still have work." We spent the next 48 hours buried in silence, 0 light, low heat. We'd lost our safe house, half our network, and the FBI contacts had gone silent after the story twist. Someone at federal level had taken a payoff. That much was obvious. Victor finally broke the silence. "Commander, the data we stole, all drives have secondary keys. Hidden metadata shows live backup on remote servers. If we find those, we expose everything. Location: encrypted coordinates point toward the mayor's offshore legal office in Miami." Hunter exhaled. "We can't cross state lines without alerting federal jurisdiction." I met his eyes. "Then we don't. We bring the servers here." Victor blinked. "How?" "Force him to access them remotely. We make him panic." The plan was simple, elegant, and lethal in reputation. That night, we hijacked the City Hall broadcast tower. Victor embedded a worm into the mayor's closed network, cycling random images from his own vault onto his private monitor. One still frame from the mansion basement, then blank. A slow reminder. Within hours, he released an emergency statement to press. Anonymous hackers targeting my office with fabricated files. Exactly what we wanted, panic publicly visible. Hunter smiled thin. He's sweating. Look at his eyes in that broadcast, twitching side to side. Fear makes the powerful clumsy. I said. Next step hit faster than expected. My phone rang again, block number. I answered. A calm voice. You win this round, Commander. But I still write the ending. Mr. Mayor, I said. Your endings look a lot like our beginnings. Careful. You're no longer Navy. One order from me. You're fugitives. Then consider this, I said. Tomorrow morning, the world meets the girls you called fabrications. Every second you delay surrender, another file drops. He chuckled, low and cold. Then I accelerate, starting with your daughter. The line clicked dead. Hunter's jaw tightened. He's bluffing. But I knew the tone of a man planning something irreversible. No, he's desperate. At dawn, Ruby's voice broke through comms. She was with Frost's team, but her voice shook. Dad, someone called the safe house phone pretending to be FBI director. They gave our passphrase. I froze. Ruby, listen to me. Don't open the door. Do not, static. Signal gone. I felt something inside me rip open. Hunter saw my face and didn't ask. He just started loading magazines. Victor pulled satellite overlays. Black SUVs, South Road, heading to that location. Distance? I asked. 40 miles. Then we're 35 minutes late. I said. We cut that to 20. We rolled through back roads like lightning, engines drowning in wind. The radio static cleared just once, a scream, tires, then silence. When we reached the safe house, everything looked too quiet. Door open, curtains moving like ghosts. Inside, empty. Tables overturned, phones smashed. But on the wall, scratched into the paint with metal, a message, she's alive. Come get her. Coordinates below. Victor read them, whispering. That's the old Marine Training Center, North Bay. Hunter's knuckles whitened. Classic bait. I know, I said, sliding an old seal knife into my belt. But when your daughter becomes bait, trap or not, you walk inside it. He stared at me, then nodded. Then we walked loud. Night fell again as we neared the compound. Abandoned barracks turned private property. Floodlights cut across broken runways. Every shutter screamed ambush, yet every silence screamed Ruby. I crouched behind cover, whispering across comms. Positions 1 through 6, confirm. Hunter, in. Victor, ready. Tristan, on perimeter. Motion sensors hot. I breathe deep. Move. The screen fades here on the cliff edge of breath. Thunder rising over the bay. 72 ghosts preparing to thunder down one more time. The mayor wanted war. He was about to learn what war born of love really looked like. The compound loomed ahead. Broken buildings, floodlights sweeping slow over rusted fences. Rain was pouring again, the kind that mutes gunfire. Every sense sharpened. Every breath counted. My daughter was inside that place, and no law on earth could slow me. Positions confirmed. Victor whispered over comms. 4 guards patrolling. Thermal shows 2 inside main facility. No civvies. Hunter crouched beside me, eyes scanning the roofline. Classic decoy structure. They want you walking through those doors. I nodded. Then we give them what they want, just not how they expect. We launched the breach like a silent storm. Tristan cut power lines on the north wall. Floodlights crashed to dark. Hunter and I slid through side entry B. Victor fed live updates through thermal feed. The first guard didn't even realize he'd been seen. Quick chokehold, silent drop. Second followed. My steps felt mechanical, trained, but the weight inside me wasn't discipline. It was fear disguised as focus. We reached the main corridor lit by flickering bulbs. A voice echoed faintly through a speaker, Kyle Aldrin's. You came for your girl, didn't you, Commander? I warned Dad you'd come crawling back to your little war. Arrogance laced his every word, but behind it I heard trembling. The hunter sounding confident because he knows the woods are closing in. Keep talking, I muttered. I like when targets announce their position. Hunter smirked. He's live feeding this somewhere. Let's find the hub. Down the hall we found a monitoring room. Screens everywhere, broadcasting multiple camera angles, even one showing us. He was watching. I told you. The speaker crackled again. You and your ghosts don't scare me anymore. My father says this is your ending. Just then, another monitor lit up. Ruby, tied to a chair again, this time in a corner room covered with press banners behind her. Youth Reform Foundation. My stomach twisted. He brought media here. He wanted an audience. Commander, Victor's voice through the earpiece. Global feed detected. They're broadcasting to local channels, setting you up for a live execution narrative. They'll call you terrorists. Hunter's jaw clenched. We kill the stream, or we die legends. I steadied my breathing. No legends today. Just truth. We moved fast, down a hall, up a metal staircase, to a reinforcement door where 2 guards stood ahead. Silent takedown, clean, efficient. Inside the upper room sat Kyle at a console, live mic strapped to his collar, smirking as if this were another game. Well, look at that, he said, lowering his pistol onto the desk. The ghost himself. Where's Ruby? I asked. He pointed lazily toward the adjoining room. She's fine for now. If you shoot me, the feed keeps running. Whole world sees you murder a kid. Hunter circled behind him, stepping silent as breath. Kyle kept talking, drunk on his own script. You're finished, Commander. You can't win a war against power. Hunter's arm locked around his neck before he could finish. His pistol clattered to the floor. Seconds later, he was out cold. Feed control. I asked Victor. Broken, Victor replied. Transmission ended mid-sentence. You're off air. Good, I said. Let's finish this. Ruby sat in the next room, alive, eyes red but defiant. She looked at me and whispered, They wanted to make you the villain on TV. I crouched beside her, untied her wrists. They never understood. Villains don't bother saving anyone. Dad, what now? Now we let them dig their own graves. Victor inserted a drive into Kyle's system, rerouting every saved video file to multiple global servers. Within minutes, the files from the mansion, the vault, and the compound synced and uploaded publicly. Every news channel that tried to smear us would soon air the truth themselves. At sunrise, social media exploded. Anonymous sources released files exposing years of corruption, abuse, money laundering, everything tied directly to Mayor Aldrin. Major networks confirmed, naming Kyle and his father in criminal investigations. Hunter poured black coffee while we listened to the chaos unfold on local radio. You actually did it, Commander, he said quietly. Truth's louder than bullets. I stared out at the dawn through the cracked window. Not loud enough. He'll fight back before this day ends. And he did. By noon, government briefings labeled the evidence foreign interference, brushing off accountability. Local law ignored warrants. The mayor called the leaks fabricated cyberterrorism. Then an explosion ripped 3 miles south, a federal prosecutor's office leveled to ash. The same woman who promised protection for the girls, Lila, was gone. Ruby dropped her mug. No, she was with us. I gripped her shoulder to steady her. They're erasing evidence, physically now. Hunter kicked the table. He's proving he's still the state around here. Victor's voice cracked, angry for the first time. Commander, we can't outshoot a government that refuses to see truth. We don't outshoot, I said. We outlast. Hours later, the mayor held a televised address. His face painted with practiced concern, his hand resting on his son's shoulder as if nothing had ever happened. He called us dangerous radicals. Ruby watched the screen and whispered, How can people believe him? Because fear's easier than truth, I said. That made my decision simple. Victor, I said, schedule broadcast 2,000 hours. Our truth, unedited footage, every time-stamped file. Use global servers, public mirror sites. They can't kill all of it. He nodded, already typing. Hunter turned toward me. You're painting a target on your back bigger than before. I looked at Ruby, then back at him. Let them aim. I'm done hiding behind duty. We relocated headquarters that night, an empty mountain lodge belonging to an old veteran friend. Quiet, cold, defensible. While Victor prepped the release, Ruby sat by the fireplace writing on a scrap journal page. I asked what she was doing. Making sure people remember us right, she said. Because they'll twist it again tomorrow. I whispered, they can twist stories. They can't twist scars. Scars tell themselves. At 8 p.m. sharp, the broadcast went live. Videos rolled raw. The vault, the rescued girls, Kyle confession caught midstream. Even the mayor ordering containment. It flooded everywhere. News, dark web, even foreign outlets. Victor's laptop pinged. 500,000 views in 10 minutes, Commander. Then the mayor vanished from public sight. 2 hours later, headlights appeared on the empty road outside the lodge. Hunter aimed night scope. Single convoy. Official plates. Looks government. Within seconds, loudspeakers echoed through the valley. Commander Rowe, step outside. You are under arrest for violation of state security laws. Ruby froze. Dad, it's all right, I said softly, loading one last magazine. They'll come thinking I'll surrender. I'll make sure the real criminals walk out instead. Hunter stared at me. You can't go head on against them. I won't, I said. I'll vanish before they ever see me. But first, they'll find the mayor's sins stuffed in their own command center. Victor's eyes widened. You embedded the files in their internal servers? I nodded. By the time they drag me out, their own network will confess. He grinned. That's cold, Commander. Justice usually is. Outside, spotlights consumed the lodge, agents shouting. I stepped into the light slowly, empty-handed, raising my palms high. I'm not your enemy, I said loud enough to carry over the valley. I just reminded your nation who the real ones are. As they cuffed me, I looked past them down the hill. A convoy just like theirs raced away toward the capital, driven by Hunter and Victor, Ruby in the back seat, servers secured in crates. They were gone before anyone realized it wasn't me inside. I smiled once quietly. Powerless, huh? The night closed over the mountain in rolling thunder. The handcuffs were cold, wet steel cutting into my wrists as they shoved me inside a transport van. Rain hammered against the roof, each drop counting the seconds I had left before my story got rewritten again. The doors slammed, and darkness swallowed everything but the hum of the engine. Across from me sat a man in a dark suit, badge clipped on his belt. Commander Ian Rowe, he said flatly. You've sparked a national incident. People are calling you a terrorist. I looked up, rainwater dripping from my hair. Then you know what they call a man who shelters criminals. He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled a file from his briefcase and slid it across the metal floor toward me. Half the pages were my team's photos, Hunter, Victor, Tristan. The last page stopped my breath. Ruby, marked witness compromised. Where did you get this? I asked quietly. He smirked. Orders from the top. Mayor Aldrin handed these files himself. He said your daughter's part of your operation. Rage isn't a feeling. It's a switch. I leaned forward till the cuffs cut deep and said, Then you're cuffing the wrong man. 2 minutes later, the driver shouted over comms, change of route. Orders from HQ. The agent frowned, tapping his earpiece. Static. Then, all at once, the van jerked to a halt. Tires screeched. Boom. The front windshield shattered inward. Smoke filled the van. The agent fell sideways, dazed. A sharp metallic click followed, and the van door swung open to a figure silhouetted by headlights. Thought you could ride without us. Hunter grinned, rifle slung, rain dripping off his cap. You're insane, I coughed. Yeah, he said, unlocking my cuffs. But we're kind of insane. Victor pulled me out. We intercepted their convoy signal, easy to trace. I grabbed the fallen dossier. The girl's file. They're going after Ruby again. Hunter's eyes darkened. Then the mayor must still have one bullet left. We'll take it out of his chamber, I said. By dawn, we regrouped in a remote warehouse outside state lines. Victor had reconnected satellite access through a patched military feed. News outlets were in chaos. Government under investigation, Mayor Aldrin missing, and Kyle now wanted for multiple charges. But power doesn't fade easily. He still had allies. Inside the very agency that just tried to haul me away. Victor zoomed in on an intercepted internal memo. Top defense official approved your arrest warrant. Name, Director Nathaniel Ward. Guess who funds his campaign donations? I stared at the screen. Same corporate seals from the Aldrin contracts. So now the government's eating from the same table, Hunter muttered. How do we clean dirt when it owns the soap? We stain it darker, I said, till the world sees. Later that morning, Frost patched in. Commander, satellite just tracked convoy headed to abandoned airfield 2 states over. Manifest shows cargo containing digital servers seized from your last ops. They're erasing everything. Who's on-site security? I asked. Private task force. 2 choppers. For trucks, maybe 15 men. Intel says the mayor's son is there. That name hit like a hammer. Kyle. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was restoring gravity after all the lies. Hunter leaned on the map table. We take the field, seize the servers, and extract him alive. Make him testify. Exactly, I said. This ends with the truth speaking itself. The operation built in minutes. Each man moved like muscle memory. Storm clouds rolled thick above the desert field by the time we arrived. Distant blades thundered from helicopter rotors sweeping the horizon. Victor's voice cracked through my headset. Thermal confirms location. North hangar. 2 guards exterior. Movement inside. We advanced low, wind tearing against our suits. Rain mixed with dust, creating smoke that looked like ghosts crawling the ground. Perfect cover. Hunter took the roof with his suppressed rifle. 2 neat shots, bodies slumped without echo. We breached the hangar, doors slow and silent. Inside, rows of crates, flickering monitors, and Kyle standing at the center of it all, pacing with a phone pressed to his ear. I told you, Dad, we're burning everything now, he barked. No trace. The words stabbed the silence. I stepped forward, weapon lowered just enough. That's not how truth burns, Kyle. It spreads. He spun, eyes wide. The arrogance was gone now. He looked like a boy pretending to be his father's shadow. Hunter whispered, he's got no weapon. Kyle raised his hands, breathing hard. You don't get it. They'll kill me if I talk. I walked closer. Then talk before they do. He shook his head, tears breaking through fear. You think my father's running this? He's nothing compared to what stands behind him. If I give you names, they'll... A bullet tore through the window. Kyle's body jerked backward, dropping like a puppet whose strings were cut. Blood spread under him like spilled ink. Sniper! Victor shouted. Hunter dragged me behind a crate. We're pinned. I scanned through cracked glass. On a distant tower, a single glint, the scope reflection. Northwest crow's nest, 15 degrees up, I called. Hunter fired a quick burst, 2 shots, then silence. The echo vanished into rain. When we reached Kyle's body, he was still breathing, barely. His voice rasped. There's a drive, under the console. Truth hides deeper. The light left his eyes before he finished the last word. Victor found the small black drive taped under the terminal. Got it. Might be what he died for. We slipped it into a pocket and evacuated before more gunfire found us. By the time we reached our trucks, distant sirens cut through the night. Back at safe house number 6, we decrypted the new drive. Dozens of hidden contracts, offshore listings, and one name repeated on every file header, Director Nathaniel Ward. Hunter stared long. The puppet master. Yeah, I said. And tomorrow, the strings snap. At sunrise, the media reversed course again. Headlines screamed, Mayor Aldrin under federal arrest. Linked to senatorial corruption network. Cameras showed him in handcuffs, shouting innocence, blaming fake evidence. Kyle's death never hit the news. And the director's name stayed buried. Hunter slammed the desk. They traded him for silence. One villain to protect another. Ruby, finally safe in the lodge, whispered, So it never ends? I looked at her. It ends when people stop fearing headlines and start believing eyes. She stared into the morning fog. Then make them believe. Her words stayed with me as the phone buzzed again. Unknown number. A single text. We know where you are. End this yourself, or we'll do it for you. Hunter met my gaze, half smile returning. Looks like they still want a war. I loaded my weapon, eyes cold. Then give them one they'll remember as silence before thunder. In the distance, the sky began to bruise again with storm clouds, the kind that always arrived before reckoning. And somewhere beneath those clouds, justice was still watching, patient as training, quiet as a seal. The storm rolled in by nightfall. The wind screamed across the ridge as though warning us not to move, but there was no turning back. The message we'd received wasn't a threat, it was a promise. And promises like that always end in blood. We spent the night preparing. Hunter checked every magazine twice. Victor wiped the lenses of his thermal scope, expression like stone. Ruby sat by the window, arms around herself, trying to act calm. She'd been through more than any child should ever remember. Commander, Victor said quietly, Ward's people won't stop till they clean their trail. You exposed half the system. They can't risk you breathing. That's fine, I said. I've survived people more dangerous. But what they don't understand is, they made me a father before they made me a ghost. Ruby looked up. You say that like it's a weapon. It is, I told her. At 2 a.m., the storm reached its peak. Lightning struck the valley floor in white cracks. We engaged blackout mode. No lights, no signals, total radio silence. But the hunters always strike when the world blinks. Hunter stood near the window, eyes narrowing. Vehicle, he whispered. Half a mile out. No headlights, slow pace. He raised binoculars. Black SUV. 2 men front, tinted rear glass, standard tactical pickup. Before I could respond, the lodge generator flickered. Then every light died. Victor, secondary power. He rushed to the control panel. EMP, hit us with a portable pulse. We're blind. I felt the air shift. The quiet before impact. Ruby down. Glass shattered. Flashbangs detonated through the walls. The explosion threw dust and wooden splinters across the room. Hunter fired blind bursts into the shadows. Shapes moved through the smoke. Black-suited men. Calm. Trained. Fast. Victor dragged Ruby toward the hallway. I covered the door. One intruder lunged at me, knife out. Old instincts returned. Grab, twist, drive the elbow through. He dropped without a sound. Move, I shouted. But they were too many. A second wave cut through the back entrance. Gunfire erupted, echoing like distant thunder. Hunter's voice tore through the noise. I've got 2. He dropped one, then spun for the next. The bullet grazed his neck. He still went on firing. One masked attacker grabbed Ruby by the arm, trying to drag her out through shattered windows. She kicked, screamed, clawed, but they'd rehearsed this. I sprinted after her, caught the man's vest, slammed him into the wall. His mask ripped away. Underneath it, Ward's insignia on his shoulder. Ruby broke free for half a second before another man seized her from behind, pressing a syringe to her neck. She gasped, eyes fluttering. Dad! I reached as the world slowed around us. Gunfire boomed like thunder underwater. Then she went limp in his arms. Hunter! I shouted, voice breaking raw. He threw a grenade near the front porch, forcing the attackers to scatter. I can't get clear line, too much smoke. When the haze thinned, the vans were gone. Tires screeching into the forest road. Silence. Just rain. Just emptiness. My knees hit the floor hard. For a full 10 seconds, I couldn't breathe. Ruby's small blue bracelet, the one her mother gave her, lay broken on the ground. Hunter crouched beside me, voice barely steady. We'll get her. You hear me? We'll bring her back. Victor limped in, blood streaking his temple. They took her toward the coast, direction East Bay. Probably to the old Marine training facility. The same base where we trained 2 decades ago under Command Ops. A place full of ghosts. I got to my feet. Then we're bringing those ghosts with us. Within an hour, we were on wheels again. Rain hammered against the windshield as Victor traced GPS signals through his backup tablet. They're moving at convoy speed, minimum 3 vehicles. You can't catch them before dawn. We don't chase, I said, loading a magazine. We intercept. Hunter grinned, blood still drying on his jaw. That's more like it. By 4 a.m., the old marine facility came into sight. Massive hollow hangars beside the crashing ocean, lightning carving shadows across them. It looked deserted, but our scanners told another story. Dozens of faint heat marks inside. Looks like they resurrected this place, Victor muttered. 72 men once trained here. I whispered. Tonight, 3 will be enough. We parked the convoy half a mile out. Boots sank into mud as we marched forward, wind howling through warped hangar panels. Patience. Focus. Every step calculated, like approaching an enemy trench after too many wars. Inside, lights flickered across military crates and chains hanging from old beams. Voices echoed, orders crisp, efficient. From a distant aisle, I saw her. Ruby, strapped to a chair, wires connected to a monitor displaying ECG data. A man stood behind her, Director Ward himself, silver-haired, expression clinical. 2 guards flanked him. You brought the truth to light, Ward said as we entered, his voice steady through a speaker. But light can be controlled. I walked forward, every muscle burning restraint. You made the mistake of thinking control equals power. He smiled faintly. Power's perception, Commander. And perception is exactly what I command. Then command this, Hunter said, firing once. Clean, swift, taking out the guards with surgical precision. Ward didn't flinch. Even if you kill me, people will never believe you. You've already been labeled the villain. I stepped closer, unarmed now, rain dripping onto cracked concrete. Then I'll stop speaking, and let your own files speak instead. He frowned. What files? Victor held up a portable drive. Kyle's dying confession uploaded to every live network in the state. By now, half your world's watching. For the first time, fear touched Ward's eyes. I whispered, smile for the cameras, Director, the same ones you used to bury people. He moved to grab Ruby, as if she were a shield. But she didn't freeze this time. She bit hard into his hand and kicked the chair backward. That single second was all I needed. Hunter shot once, clean to the shoulder. Ward collapsed, weapon skidding across concrete. I rushed forward, cut Ruby's restraints. She fell into my arms, shaking. I told you we'd come, I whispered. Through tears, she breathed. You took long enough. Sirens grew louder outside. FBI, Army units mixed. For once, they weren't ours or his. They were the world's eyes now watching the same live translation of truth broadcast through every screen. Ward's voice rasped from the ground. You think this ends with me? I looked down at the man gasping against blood and rain. No, it ends when men like you stop believing they're gods. By sunrise, police filled the compound. The raid went public before we even stepped out. Reporters broadcast live footage of the facility, evidence bags, trafficked victims identified, corruption trails linking half the country's elite. Ruby stood against the dawn, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the ocean beyond the cliff. The waves gleamed red in sunrise light, like the sea itself was closing old wounds. Hunter patted my shoulder softly. Guess ghosts can still save the living. Victor smiled wearily. Does this mean we finally rest, Commander? I looked at Ruby laughing quietly through exhausted tears and said, not rest. Just breathe. As helicopters lifted Ward and his men away, Ruby slipped her small hand into mine. Are you done being a soldier now? She asked softly. I looked out at the churning sea. No, I'm done being silent. Hunter gave a low whistle as the sun broke through drifting clouds. That's one ending they can't rewrite. And for the first time since it all began, the world didn't feel like a battlefield. It felt like it might heal. The sun rose slow over the coastline, light slicing through the mist that clung to the cliffs. The night before had felt endless, 100 storms folded into one battle. But dawn came anyway, like it always does for survivors. Ward was in custody. Cameras rolled. The nation that had called us terrorists now called us heroes. Still, I couldn't let myself believe in happy endings. In the world I knew, peace was just the silence between two wars. Hunter stood beside me, mug of coffee steaming in his hand. "Feels weird," he said. "Winning." I half smiled. We didn't win. We just stopped losing for a moment. Ruby stepped out of the medical van, bruised but standing tall, bandage around her arm. She walked up, eyes brave. "They said I should rest," she said. I looked at her and shook my head softly. "They're right. Sleep." "I can't," she whispered. "Not until this whole thing's buried." "They'll come again," she was right. Men like Ward never act alone. Somewhere behind him, others were shaking hands over breakfast, already writing new cover stories. Later that day, we met with federal agents in a temporary command tent pitched outside the facility ruins. Reporters swarmed beyond the perimeter. Directors' office lights blinked on the monitors, officials demanding statements for damage control. One agent handed me a document marked Temporary Immunity Agreement. It recognized Horizon 7-2 as operatives acting under citizen defense. Legal safety, on paper at least. Hunter raised an eyebrow. 12 years running dark, and suddenly we're legitimate. Victor chuckled quietly. "Guess that's what truth does? It rewrites definitions." I signed it, more out of irony than belief. Paper doesn't clean blood. It simply records which hands held the pen. Around noon, the press conference began. Cameras pointed at me like gun barrels. I never liked microphones. They remind me too much of orders. But this time, words mattered. I stepped up, sun glinting off the ocean behind me. "My name is Commander Ian Rowe," I said. 12 years ago, I led 72 men who swore to protect this flag. Not for politics, not for pay, but because someone had to. Last week, those same men reminded the world what happens when silence is mistaken for weakness. Faces leaned in close. Reporters scribbled. "We didn't fight for revenge," I continued. "We fought for one small girl who never stopped believing justice was possible. Because the moment a father stops fighting for his child, the world loses its soul." I glanced toward Ruby standing by Hunter, head low but smile fragile and real. "This chapter isn't about heroes," I said finally. "It's about humanity. And it's over." The entire scene went still. No applause, just quiet. The kind of quiet that means people were actually listening. That night, when the noise faded and the crowds were gone, Hunter, Victor, and I gathered at the old lighthouse above the bay. 3 folding chairs, 1 campfire, empty sky. We stared at the stars, the way soldiers always do when there's nothing left to aim at. Victor exhaled. "So what now?" "We become legends no one wants to mention." Hunter grinned. "Legends don't retire. They vanish." "Maybe," I said. "But before we vanish, I have one last thing to do." They looked over as I pulled out Ward's confiscated phone from my pocket. Buried in this are the rest of his contact chains, the ones still breathing. We feed it to international agencies. Let the echoes finish the war. Victor nodded. "Quiet justice." "Exactly," I said. At midnight, heavy winds swept off the sea. Ruby walked up to join us, wrapped in her mother's old jacket. "I remember Mom taking me up here once," she said softly. "Said the ocean listens when people don't." I looked at her, eyes tired but proud. She was right. She placed the broken bracelet, the one I'd found on the floor of the lodge, on my palm. "Keep this one now. I've got new ones." The gesture nearly broke me. I'd spent so long fighting shadows that I forgot what light felt like up close. Hunter broke the heavy silence. "Commander, it's weird seeing the world as calm again. Can we even live normal now?" I glanced at the waves slamming stone. "Normal's overrated. Peace is enough." Before dawn, the FBI transport helicopter lifted off carrying Ward toward federal court. The news said he'd struck a plea deal, offering bigger names. By sunrise, every screen in America flashed with arrests of the powerful who thought they'd hidden under his cloak. Ruby sat by the railing, wind blowing through her hair. He's really going to prison? Yes, I said. He'll see daylight through bars now. That's enough. She looked at me quietly. So we won. I smiled faintly. You don't win truth, Ruby. You survive it. By the 5th day, the team prepared to scatter again. Hunter booked a cabin out in Colorado. Victor planned to teach survival training to young recruits. Each of us carried different scars, but the same pulse. When it was my turn to pack, Ruby stopped me at the door. Where will you go? Somewhere quiet, I said. Places where storms are just weather. She hugged me tight, whispering, Promise you won't disappear completely. I smiled. You'll always know where to find me. Just follow the sound when thunder feels like footsteps. As the truck rolled down the empty coast road, I looked back once at the roaring waves and the abandoned base in the distance. It was oddly peaceful, knowing the ghosts had finally been heard. Hunter's voice echoed in my memory. Feels weird winning. Yeah, it still did. But in that moment, with the engine humming and the horizon bleeding gold, I realized the mission wasn't about revenge or redemption. It was about remembrance. For every voice silenced by power, for every father told he's powerless, for every daughter who refused to break, the world had watched 72 ghosts rise, not for war, but for justice. And sometimes, that's loud enough to change everything. The courthouse was silent except for rain tapping the glass dome above. Even the air felt careful, as if afraid to disturb the moment history had finally decided to listen. After months of chaos, betrayal, and battle, truth had made it all the way to a judge's bench. Ward stood cuffed in front of the chamber, face stripped of the arrogance that once controlled the country's narrative. His expensive suit sagged under the weight of disgrace, his eyes hollow from nights without command. Ruby sat beside me in the front row, her fingers trembling but steady in mine. Hunter and Victor stood at the back, their seal posture still perfect, even in civilian clothes. The world was watching through hundreds of lenses, for once, not through propaganda, but through proof. When the judge read the verdict aloud, every syllable cut through like clean steel. On all counts of conspiracy, abuse of power, and murder in cover operation, guilty. Life imprisonment without possibility of parole. A breath I'd been holding for months finally escaped. Ward didn't look at the judge, he looked right at me. There was no anger now, no hate, only recognition. The kind that passes between soldiers when both have lost too much to count. Hunter leaned close, whispering, It's over, sir. Not over, I said quietly, watching the chains tighten around Ward's wrists. Just balanced. Outside, the courthouse steps drowned in rain and flashing cameras. Reporters screamed questions through the storm. Commander, what does justice mean to you now? I paused just long enough to answer one, softly. Justice isn't revenge. It's when the truth doesn't need permission to breathe. Flashes went off. Microphones stretched closer, but I walked past them. Some stories end quietly because noise can't handle their weight. Ruby slipped her arm around mine as we headed down the wet marble steps. You didn't smile once, Dad, she said gently. I looked at her, proud and tired. I haven't learned how yet. But we're free now, she reminded me, eyes bright through raindrops. I nodded. Then maybe I'll start learning tonight. A month passed. Ward disappeared behind concrete and silence. The government restructured. Headlines rotated from outrage to distraction. But deep down, people knew the shift, a fracture in the system that would never fully mend. Hunter and Victor stayed a few days longer at my coastal cabin before the unit disbanded for good. We spent nights by the fire, watching the ocean move like an old friend that had seen everything but still kept its secrets. Victor grinned one evening, holding up a mug. To the 72 ghosts that finally slept. Hunter raised his cup. And to the man who taught silence how to fight. We laughed for the first time in a long time. Not the kind of laugh soldiers forced to survive, but a real one. It felt foreign, and maybe that was healing itself. Ruby eventually started university in a nearby city. On her first day, she called before sunrise. "Dad, they gave us an assignment. Write a story that changed your life." I think I already lived mine. I smiled into the receiver. "Then write it down anyway. Words travel farther than bullets." "Will you read it when it's done?" she asked. "Always." She paused. "You're proud." "Beyond measure." "Then that's enough for me," she said softly. After the call ended, I stayed on the porch until morning, watching light bloom across the waves. For once, the world didn't look like a battlefield. It looked like a second chance. 3 months later, a small bronze plaque appeared at the old marine facility by the coast. Unannounced and signed, placed by strangers who remembered. It read, "In memory of the forgotten and the few who refused to stay that way." Beneath it were the names of all 72 SEALs. At the bottom, one additional line. "Truth doesn't need uniform to serve." Ruby joined me there that morning, laying a single blue flower beneath the plaque. "You think people will ever know what really happened here?" she asked. "They don't need to," I said. "Justice already did." That evening, before sunset, I walked down alone to the shore. The tide was low, the sky bleeding gold. I reached into my jacket pocket and took out Ruby's old broken bracelet, the one I'd carried since the night everything began. For the first time, my hands didn't shake. I tossed it into the sea. It vanished like it was always meant to go home. And as the wind howled through the cliffs, I whispered to the horizon, "Powerless, huh?" "Not anymore." The waves answered with their own applause, quiet, constant, endless. The kind of applause that means peace finally noticed you. I closed my eyes and breathed deep. Finally, the soldier could rest. Not in silence, in peace. Before we fade to black, I want to speak directly to you, the one who's been here from the first second till this one. Which parts of this story touched you the most? What kind of stories do you love hearing? Shattered betrayals, family revenge, deep emotional journeys, or quiet justice like this one? Tell me in the comments what you want next, because the next story I write will be for you. And if you felt something, even for a moment, take a second to like this video, subscribe to join our growing listener family, and share it with someone who still believes the heart can fight back without hate. We'll meet again in another epic, emotional revenge thriller, something new, something unforgettable. Till then, take care of yourselves, take care of your people, and never forget, even the smallest truth, spoken softly, can shake empires. Now tell me, where are you watching from today? Comment your city or country below. I'd love to know how far our voice has reached. See you in the next story. Stay brave. Stay human.